perhaps we ought to address this one to you, Dr. Hasse. We know that United States Marine Corps Systems Command asked you to create MMF to protect and fortify Marines, airmen, sailors, and soldiers in extreme environments. Could you please walk us through how MMF was born?
Okay, Jason, this is really a fascinating story, and I think it underlies what's exciting about MMF and Engage Global, because it's a unique story, and no other product in the world has this story. Kedar Prasad and I were wondering what we were going to do after we started our research, because we had a lot of interest from physicians, especially in New York, as to how we were going to roll this out. And unfortunately, September 11th, 2001 happened before we could launch with physicians. So we were in a hotel in Washington intending to actually meet with NIH personnel to tell them about our discoveries with this unique micronutrients that we were sort of looking at different formulations, when the phone rang in the hotel room. And it was the Marine Corps, the United States Marine Corps. I have no idea how they knew we were in that hotel room, but they said, "Is this Dr. Prasad and Dr. Hasse?" They had read Kedar's initial paper on using micronutrients for protection against a number of conditions, and we had written a paper together, so they knew both of our names. And we said, "Yes, this is us." And they said, "Would you mind coming to Quantico, Virginia?" And we said, "What?" And they said, "Well, we have some Russians here, and we'd like you to meet them and talk with them." So Kedar and I went to Quantico, Virginia, and we sat at a long table, and there were these guys with these red stars on their hat and looked like Russians, and they were had translators. And it turns out that the Russians had used some micronutrients in their war against the Mujahideen, their Afghan war in the late 1980s. And what they found was very interesting. They found that when they gave micronutrients to these soldiers, and their formula was nowhere near as comprehensive as what we came up with, which is now MMF, they actually got better outcomes. They got less injury severity scores. They had less multiple organ failure. And when these Russian soldiers got out of the combat zone, they had better neurologic outcomes. So the Marines said to Kedar and I, "Can you please make a formula for us that will protect our Marines and our Army soldiers and our Rangers and our Special Navy SEALs and everybody, because we're going to war. We're going to go into Afghanistan. We may go into Iraq. We have to fight a very bad enemy, and we need your help. Please put together a micronutrient formulation that will protect our U.S. operating forces against some very hostile environments, possibly toxic agents, maybe even sort of chemical agents and nerve agents. Who knows what they'll encounter. But if you could do that, we'd appreciate it." And what came out of that, Jason, was a multi-year, multi-million-dollar effort supported by the United States Congress, where we put together a formulation that was a blockbuster, and now Engage Global has it. It's MMF.
Thank you, Doctor.